All right, let's dive right into this controversy around India's Got Latent, this Indian YouTube show. It's got itself in some hot water. We've got news articles, social media posts, official statements even. Oh, and a leaked voice note too. So yeah, sounds like just one joke on this show is causing a whole chain reaction. Legal complaints, political outrage, whole debate about censorship, online platforms, you name it. So maybe you could get us started with like just a quick overview of the show.
Sure. India's Got Latent. It's hosted by Samay Raina. He's a comedian. Kind of known for it's a mix of a talent show and stand-up comedy. It's got a pretty big following, but, it's had its critics before.
Yeah.
Some people find the style a bit too crude, I guess you could say.
So this wasn't like their first time dealing with controversy.
Okay.
Got it. What was it this time that really, pushed things too far?
Okay, so there was a recent episode where Veera Labadia was a guest. He's actually pretty well known himself, YouTuber, podcaster, that kind of thing. He asked a contestant a question, and, well, let's just say it sparked a pretty immediate backlash. I'm not going to repeat it word for word, but the question involved, well, incest, and it came across as, vulgar, offensive, really rubbed people the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's a serious thing to be accused of. So what happened after that? What was the reaction like?
It was fast. The National Commission for Women, the NCW, they noticed right away. In India, they're a statutory body that protects women's rights. And they summoned a bunch of people from the show, Alabadia, Reina, for hearings. It shows how seriously they're taking online content now, especially if it could, harm societal values.
I see. The NCW, they're not messing around. Were there any other official responses, like from other organizations?
Oh, yeah. The National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, NCPCR. They focus on children's rights. They actually urged YouTube to take the episode down. YouTube did, removed it based on, well, government orders, basically.
So you have these two big national commissions, the NCW and NCPCR, both taking action. Then you have YouTube responding to pressure from the government. It's kind of wild how this one incident just blew up like this and got all these different authorities involved. What about like legal consequences? Were there any legal actions taken against anyone?
Yeah. Multiple FIRs, first information reports, were filed against Alabadia. An FIR basically means a formal investigation is starting. It's the first step for legal cases in India.
Sounds like things are getting pretty serious for Alabadia then. What kind of fallout has he seen so far? Like, what are the consequences?
Well, it's not just the police investigation. His online presence took a hit, too. Lost over 8,000 followers on social media. Might not sound like a lot, but, for someone who's basically built a brand online, it's definitely noticeable.
Definitely shows how quickly things can change online, huh? Public opinion can really shift in an instant. What about his brand partnerships? Has all this affected those?
It could, yeah. I mean, he's got collaborations with Spotify, Mountain Dew, Amazon Prime Video, big names. They're probably all taking a closer look now. Some of them might decide to cut ties just to distance themselves.
Makes sense. Brands, they're super image conscious. Plus, you've got the All Indian Sin Workers Association, the AICWA. They're a big deal in the film industry. They've come out and publicly denounced him, even called for a boycott.
Right. That AICWA denouncement, that's big. It could have a real impact on his career. Future opportunities, collaborations, it's all up in the air now.
Wow. So legal trouble, online backlash, maybe losing brand deals, condemned by an entire industry group, all from one joke. It's crazy how much this spiraled. What about the public, though? What are regular people saying about all of this?
It's kind of divided. Reflects this bigger debate this whole thing has started. A lot of people are condemning it, calling for Alabadia to be held accountable. But some are actually, well, I guess you could say they're getting a little bit of schadenfreude out of it.
Schadenfreude. Sorry, could you explain what that is?
It's a German word. It's that feeling you get when someone you see as, like, more successful than you, when they mess up. It's like taking pleasure in their misfortune. So some people are saying part of the backlash is because people saw Alabadia as, too successful maybe, and now they're kind of enjoying seeing him fall.
That's that's an interesting take. Adds a whole nother layer to all this, doesn't it? Has anyone actually come out in his defense, though?
Surprisingly, yeah. Raftar, he's a rapper, and Munawar Faruqi, a comedian. Both pretty well known. They've both spoken up in support of Reina, the show's host. Their argument is people are overreacting. Comedy needs some freedom. You can't have these serious consequences for every joke.
So we've got condemnation, support, even this schadenfreude thing happening. This one incident has really tapped into something, huh? It sparked a whole discussion about humor, where the line is, especially with sensitive topics like, well, incest.
Yeah, it's bigger than just a joke now. It's about free speech, social taboos, what content creators are responsible for. especially when they've got these huge platforms, so many people listening to them. Back again with our deep dive into this whole India's Got Latent thing. We've been talking about all the fallout from, well, that joke. Now it seems like everyone's arguing about content regulation, especially with comedy and these, like, social taboos.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, where's the line between freedom and responsibility? When does a creator cross it? One interesting take we saw was from the founder of Careers 360. It's a pretty big education platform here. They actually defended Raina's show. They said it was, paid subscription based.
Yeah, their point was the audience is choosing to watch. They know what the show's like. Plus, nobody in the live audience complained during the recording. So it's like, should the government even get involved when it's, basically a private thing between adults?
I get that. Like, if you don't like it, don't watch. But then again, even if it's paid, shouldn't something be off limits? Stuff that could actually be harmful or offensive.
That's the debate, right? Even if it's a choice, could this kind of humor, like, I don't know, contribute to a culture where people are disrespectful or make harmful behavior seem normal?
It's a tough one. And then you've got Alabadia's personal life being brought into it. Makes you wonder, are public figures held to a different standard online? You mentioned before, Raina said in that voice note, comedy has no responsibility. Seems like he's saying comedy doesn't have to follow any rules, social or moral ones.
Right, that's the classic argument for artistic freedom. But then, like we said, he also said comedy can relieve stress, help people relax.
Which kind of means it does affect people, right? So maybe he is responsible, even if he doesn't mean to be.
Exactly. Can't say it helps people and then say you have no responsibility for what you put out there.
It's like a chef saying, here's your food, but I'm not responsible if you get sick.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
That's exactly the tension here between freedom to create and, well, what could happen because of what you create.
And there's this whole power dynamic, too. Creators and their audiences, especially with social media. One post, one video, millions of people see it.
No doubt. This whole thing shows we need to be talking about this. The ethics of online content. It's not just laws. It's about how our words, our actions affect people and society as a whole.
Speaking of impact, this really hit on some sensitive stuff in Indian culture, family, respect for elders, all that.
Totally. That joke about incest, it went too far for most people. So it attacked the core of what family means, what society expects.
And some people are saying this is part of a clash between traditional values and that woke ideology. Can you explain that a bit more? I feel like people throw that word around, but not everyone gets what it really means.
Woke is basically being super aware of social justice and wanting to change traditional power structures, things that oppress people. So some are saying this backlash is because people are resistant to new ideas about family, sexuality, gender roles, all that.
So it's not just about the joke. It's a symptom of this bigger cultural shift, different values, different ways of seeing things.
Yeah, exactly. It shows how humor, even if it's not meant to be serious, can trigger these deep-seated anxieties.
But even setting that aside makes you think, are there topics that should just be off limits for comedy? Even if they're not illegal, where do we draw the line?
That's the big question. Humor is about pushing boundaries, challenging what's normal. What's funny to one person is offensive to another. It depends on your background, your experiences, so many things.
Context matters too, right? A joke with friends is different from a joke on a platform with millions of viewers.
Absolutely. You have to be aware of who you're talking to, what impact you might have, especially with sensitive stuff. It's about thinking before you speak, knowing that humor has a powerful impact, and with that comes responsibility.
Let's switch gears for a sec. I want to talk more about Alabadia's past, what you mentioned before. His struggles with addiction, that adds a whole other dimension to this.
For sure. He's been very open about it, battling alcohol and marijuana addiction. He credits meditation and his mentor, Manish Pandey, for helping him get through it. It's a story of growth, redemption, that resonated with a lot of people. That's part of why he's so popular.
But this controversy, it kind of clashes with that, doesn't it? Do you think it makes his message seem less authentic? Like maybe he's not really living up to the values he talks about?
People are definitely questioning that now. Some think it shows he's a hypocrite. Others are giving him more of a pass, saying it was a mistake, not proof that he hasn't grown.
It reminds us, public figures, even the ones who talk about morality and self-improvement, they're human. They make mistakes too.
Yeah, and we only see a small part of their lives online. It's hard to judge someone's whole character based on one incident.
True. What's the latest with the police investigation, by the way?
Mumbai police are still on it. Visited the studio where they filmed, Albadia's place too. The complaint names him, Raina, Apurva Makija, she's an influencer who was there, and the show's organizers.
So everyone involved could face legal consequences. What about Alabadia himself? Has he said anything publicly about all this?
Yeah, he did put out a public apology, said it was a lapse in judgment, promised to be more responsible with his platform in the future.
How'd people take it?
Mixed reactions, as you'd expect. Some appreciate that he took responsibility. Others think it's just damage control, trying to save his reputation.
I get that. An apology is a good step, but actions matter more than words.
Exactly. We'll see what he does going forward. If his content changes, if he really does things differently.
While he's dealing with that, the NCW isn't letting up. Remember that letter they sent to the Information and Broadcasting Minister? They want stricter controls on content online. What's that all about?
Oh, that's big. It's not just about enforcing the laws we have now. They want more censorship, more content moderation. Not just social media, but OTT platforms too, like Netflix, Amazon Prime, that kind of thing.
So basically, more power for the government to decide what we can see online. That goes back to what we were talking about before, right? Freedom versus protection.
It's a tough balance. Free speech is important, but so is making sure these platforms aren't used to spread hate or hurt people.
And content can spread so fast online, it goes everywhere in a second. It's practically impossible to control.
Like trying to stop a tsunami. So what do we do? Do we trust social media companies to handle it themselves? Or does the government need to make stricter laws?
Yeah, what's the best way? Too much control could kill creativity, but no control, well, that could be dangerous too.
It's about finding the right balance. And honestly, this case shows how important it is for people to be media literate, to think critically about what they see online.
It's not just knowing how to use the internet, it's knowing how to process the information,
Yeah.
spotting biases, checking sources, all that.
Exactly. Be an active participant, not just a passive consumer who believes everything they see. We all shape the online world. It's a responsibility.
This incident, it's definitely made people think, which is good,
Right.
about the power of online platforms, the responsibility that comes with that.
It's a wake-up call for creators to think about their impact and for everyone else to be more careful, more discerning about what they do online.
Okay, so last part of our deep dive here. We've got to talk about the government's response to all this, right?
Right.
What it means for like the future of content in India. You mentioned the MCW. They sent that letter to the Information and Broadcasting Minister. They seem pretty serious about cracking down.
Yeah, it's a big move. It's not just, enforcing the laws that are already there. They're talking about more censorship, actually controlling what people can see on social media, but also OTT platforms, those streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, all those. It's like they want more power over what happens online.
So it's about that balance again, isn't it? Freedom of speech, but also protecting people. Where do we draw the line? Who gets to decide?
That's the question, and there's no easy answer. Free speech is so important, it's a basic right. But then you've got these platforms, and they can be used for bad stuff too. Spreading hate, putting people in danger, all sorts of things.
And it's not just what's being said, right? It's how fast it spreads, how many people see it.
Exactly. The internet's like this massive loudspeaker. Something posted in one place can be seen by millions instantly across the world. Trying to control that, I don't even know, like trying to stop the wind.
So what do? Do you trust the companies, the social media platforms, Netflix, those guys? Or does the government have to step in and make tougher rules?
Probably a bit of both, honestly. The companies, they got to have rules, make sure bad stuff isn't allowed. But the government, they got to make laws, set boundaries, protect people.
But like you were saying earlier, too much control from the government, that's not good either. It could stifle creativity, you know? It's a tightrope walk, trying to get it right.
For sure. This whole situation just shows people need to be smart about the internet. Media literacy, critical thinking, that's more important than ever.
Yeah, it's not just knowing how to use the apps, it's knowing how to think about what you're seeing. Being able to spot fake news, check if a source is reliable, all that.
Right. You got to be an active participant, not just soaking everything up without thinking. What we do online, it matters. We're all shaping the digital world.
This whole India's Got Latent thing, it's gotten people talking, made them think, which I think is a good thing in the end. It's forced us to look at these issues, the power of the internet, what comes with that power.
It's a wake-up call, definitely. Creators need to think about their impact. Everyone else needs to be careful. Think for themselves.
So, big picture, what do you hope people take away from all this?
The internet's a powerful tool. Like any tool, it can be used in good ways and bad ways. It's on us, each of us, to use it responsibly. Think about what we're seeing, what we're sharing. Make the digital world a better place, a reflection of our values.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This has been Wow, really eye-opening. I'm sure our listeners got a much better grasp on this whole thing now, thanks to you. And to our listener, thanks for being here, for going on this deep dive with us. Hopefully, you're feeling more empowered to navigate the digital world. Until next time, keep those sources coming. We'll be here helping you make sense of it all.